This is a presentation of the School of Criminal Justice and Law Enforcement at California Southern University.
We've talked about relationships, we've talked about family, we've talked about partnerships. And I think, and in law enforcement, we're moving toward that now. I see that in more ways than ever. You take Chief Hamill and Chief Solano. Those two went to high school together, grew up together, and they're both chiefs together. To me, that's where we're going. And then in the Hamill family, you have a sergeant and a chief. And I commend both of them because they're both in the business. They both promote the family values that this panel and the other panels both stated. And I want to thank you for it. Last question. Organizational succession planning. Martin?
I can't tell you how important this is. You've heard a lot about officers retiring out on these retirement programs, good incentives. And unfortunately, it's depleted the rank and file tremendously. But I think the only way to approach this is, and it's already been mentioned, is to nurture our students in the high school level, intermediate and high school levels, to look at this profession as an option for them to work very closely with the communities and have a positive impact. I mean, at Irvine, and I speak to Irvine because that's where most of my career was done, we used to have a high school program in place where the students would take this daily course in criminal justice. And the teacher of the high school was a reservist for Irvine PD. And it was great for nurturing that kind of interest in the profession to the point where they would automatically come into the Explorer program, then become cadets, and then subsequently become police officers. We need to get that back. At Post, we're trying to support agencies statewide with that kind of effort. But we too, at the Post level, have budgetary restraints and lack of personnel to really focus on it. So it's kind of at a standstill right now. It's been shelved. But it is a big problem right now. Recruitment is a big problem for both full-time officers and reservists. But it's something we need to overcome as quickly as possible.
Succession planning, I think, is just good business sense. If you look at any of your Fortune 500 companies, you look at any business that is doing well and thriving and they have good retention, it's going to be those businesses that are really picking up on the key points of each employee and their strengths and really maximizing those and allowing them to grow in areas that they want to grow and being able to give them what they need to get to the destination that they'd like to be at. And I think it's no different in law enforcement. I think that's also a cultural shift that has kind of taken place. Some agencies are better at it than others, but I certainly I've worked for 3 departments, and I can say I've worked for an agency prior that really always looked outside for any type of promotional or any type of new replacement position. And it's just not good business planning. If you're grooming your employees and you're putting this much money in just to get a badge and a gun on somebody's hip, then certainly the retention of that and building them to what you need them to be and what they want to be just makes the most sense for any organization. So I think most agencies have kind of recognized that, and mentoring has come a long way. Irvine has a bunch of different mentoring programs that I think are extremely valuable, and I think when you're mentoring somebody, you're giving them a confidence and a skill that they may not have recognized they had before, and hopefully you're giving them some insight into where they can go from where they're currently at and prevent some of that stagnation.
One of the things you talk about is the problem with succession, but the problem is really just opportunity flipped on its side. And in our organization, we are very young, and I do only have 3.5 years on, and I have to kind of give Lieutenant Park a little bit of a hard time because I am just a jail deputy. As just a jail deputy, I've worked in the courts, I've worked in the jails, I'm working recruiting right now. I'm a terrorism liaison officer, I'm a drug liaison officer, I'm on the peer support team, I've been on the gang intelligence team, and that's just as a deputy one, that's just as a jail deputy. And I look at my classmates and they've been on, we've got bombs, SWAT, canines, narcs, working at our fusion center, they've worked in gangs, we've been Explorer advisors, we are mentoring as we are being mentored. I am an academy instructor for firearms. I teach the new recruits how to shoot. There's so much stuff we get to do as just deputy ones, and part of what it is, and I know this is how the people who've gone before us have shaped our department, and they are actively shaping our department so that young deputies like me, we get to go up and say, okay, if I only have 3.5 years on and I have so much richness in my career already, in my professional life, how much more is there out for me to get? How much more can I learn? How much more can I give back? And as I've been given to, as these people with experience and with greater wisdom than I have are pouring into me so I can serve better, how can I go on and pour into the people who come after me? And so as a fairly new person on the department, as a fairly new deputy sheriff, you know, yes, we deal with bad, sad, awful, horrible things as part of our job, but there's also that great joy because we can see, look how much good we've done, and look how much we've helped, and look where we can go. And so right now, working on recruiting, for me, is really fun because I get to shape the future of my department. And I don't see it as a problem to solve, but an opportunity. So who do I want to draw in to be part of this family?
And it goes in line with the first question, and when I talked about generation, and here's a great example of that, because that is awesome to hear that you've had all these opportunities and you've done so much in that amount of time. I can tell you, I haven't been around a long time, but within almost 20 years of doing this line of work, back in the days where I started, you know, that wasn't something that was available to us. You had to, you know, do your time for it, so to speak, and put in the effort, and put in the whether it be time out on patrol or on the streets before you can even consider an assignment. So it goes back with the generation. It's a different generation. It's a generation that they're willing, they have the desire, they want to. And I think as the leaders in that organization, not just command staff or executive, but also the senior officers, they have so much influence on the up-and-comers. That have so much to say with that. And if you use that mentorship type of program, that's what they want. They want an opportunity. I know at the Santa Ana Police Department, in different ways, one being on our SWAT team, we do have a mentorship program. We do the best we can to develop the new officers and give them those opportunities that, looking back at it, even 15, 18, 20 years ago, we didn't really have to have those opportunities. And I think that's where we're going to see things grow. And if we adapt to this new generation and provide them with all these opportunities, I think you're going to see, like we mentioned before, a great outcome. So I think that's very, very important, whether it be formal or informal within the agencies and organizations.
Here at UCIPD, we're currently going through a transition. It started approximately maybe 2.5 years ago, and we're constantly going through it as well. We've lost a lot of our command staff and, you know, due to retirement, etc. So we're doing this right now, and I think that there's many areas, but two of the main areas that we can touch upon, I think that would help with this, making this transition smoother. A is recruiting. I think that someone had mentioned earlier about recruiting having the right fit. I think I try to get on the oral boards, and I'm also on our recruiting team, other officers as well, so we can have a say as to who we're going to be coming in, who we're going to be working with, who we're going to be training, and someday even work for. So I think that has a lot to do with recruiting. And then also, secondly, when you do these transitions, if you can, and if you recruit properly, and you've mentored and done all the things that you hopefully have done, you could promote within. When you do that, that does such a great thing for the morale of the other officers who are left to say, you know what, I have an opportunity here. I don't have to look outward to try to do something. That's the main thing I'd say, recruiting morale. Now, there's others, but due to time, I'll just...
Thank you. Line level, thank you.
This has been a presentation of the School of Criminal Justice and Law Enforcement at California Southern University.